Hi, everyone. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my near death experience and what this seemingly traumatic experience has done for me and what I really discover during this time in my life, with the hopes that perhaps maybe anybody that's gone through trauma or gone through something that's seemingly very painful and very traumatic finds the courage to really move through the pieces and discover the jewel that's there. Because for me, it has been the most profound physical, spiritual, and emotional experience of this lifetime. And it's opened me up to really be able to move through a lot of the limiting mindsets and conditioning that we as humans all carry, and really move through and disperse some of the fear. So at the age of 6, I had this near-death experience, of which I suppressed all the memories until I was 42. And these memories started surfacing at a very pivotal time in my life, where I was going through a divorce. I was a single mom of 3 girls, and I was also about to meet my guide, most significant guide in this lifetime, spiritual guide. So all of these things were happening in my life. And so I was in this car accident at the age of 6, and the accident was all about a truck, 16-wheeler truck, literally ran over our car. And so most of the car was underneath the 16-wheeler truck. And it took the policemen and service people about 4 hours to be able to remove this truck through the jaws of life and let me come out of the car, or release me from the car. During these 4 hours, I experienced many things, and what happened initially was that I was underneath the cushions of the back seat. I actually fell into where you put your feet. And so as a 6-year-old, the cushions fell over me. I was small enough where I kind of fit in that area. And literally the cushions saved my life in many ways. And so this happened in the middle of the night, and I really didn't know where I was. I was sleeping, and I was trapped for these 4 hours in the car, inside the car, while I could hear the policeman calling me, and I could also hear my mom hysterically outside calling me. And I could also hear our little dog that we had barking incessantly outside. And so I can hear all of this going on, and I wasn't really sure. I remember the policeman asked me if I could move, if I could touch if I could actually move my fingers, if I could move my hands. And so I answered him that I could, that I was limited, but that I could move my fingers. I couldn't move my hands. And then he just kept talking to me, trying to assure me that everything was going to be okay. And while I was feeling assured by him, at the same time I could hear my mom and her hysterical cries. And so that, concerned me because I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew it wasn't good. I knew that there was something happening that she was very worried about. And so this went on for a little while, and then I remember kind of I really couldn't hold on anymore. I couldn't like stay awake with my eyes open. I felt enormous amount of pressure and anxiety, and I felt like I just couldn't hold on anymore. And so what happened was his voice faded out, and I could hear his voice getting lighter and lighter. And then all of a sudden, I just let go, and I started to experience my body going up, and I felt my body rising, propelling almost upwards. And then I noticed that there was a very dark space around me. It's almost like I was in a space of darkness. And in this space of darkness, there was a lot of scary beings, scary shadows. And it almost seemed like all of the personification, it was like the personification of all of our fears, of the things that we think of, the things that scary movies are made of. It was like disembodied beings, and it felt very, very scary to me. And yet, while I was in this space, I could see this all kind of moving in front of me, and it was almost like they were trying to scare me. But in many ways, they couldn't really reach me. They couldn't touch me. And at first I was very scared. And then I noticed that they really couldn't touch me. At all times I was moving gently, up. It felt. I was like being propelled up. And then it started to get lighter. And I could see more light coming in, and the tunnel started to kind of feel more expanded. And I started to kind of feel relieved because, it wasn't so scary and so dark anymore. And I could then start to see light beings by my side. I really couldn't make out their faces necessarily, but they were about 4 or 5 light beings kind of moving upward with me. And it started to really feel peaceful and serene and extremely comfortable. Like I was just in peace, and all of that fear and scary moment that I had gone through was completely gone. And so, as I started to feel really comfortable, I felt like my body was just expanding, and I was feeling the safety. I was feeling like great waves of love, and everything became light. And I remember I was lying down, and I just felt like my whole being was expanding and expanding in this amazing love where I felt completely safe, like nothing else that I had felt before. And like there was nothing to do, and I just was kind of taking it all in. And it was such a deep contrast from the fear and the anxiety and the constriction that I had felt um, minutes before, that I just completely took it in, and I just felt amazing. It just felt like it was clouds, like a very misty white all around me, with these beings around me felt very held and contained. And I just wanted to lay there and be in that. There was no urgency. There was nothing at all that I needed to do. It was just taking it in and expanding in this amazing, unconditional love and light. In this light, I just felt like it was all light. Like my being was all light and I was light, and there was no difference between the light that I saw and myself. And there was really no distinct boundaries. And as I just laid, taking this in and expanding in this light and love, I don't know really how much time. It seemed like I was there for a while. And after a while of just experiencing this peace, I heard a voice from behind me, from above me, saying, "You need to go back." And at that time, I was not very excited about hearing that. And telepathically, I kind of communicated to what I felt was the voice of God that I did not want to go back, that I didn't want to go back, that I just wanted to feel this love. This is where I belonged. I felt that this was really um, home to me in many ways. This is what felt good. And I voiced that in my mind. And then I heard that this voice said, "It's not your time. It's not your time yet. You have to go back." And so I was very shocked. And at that moment, I felt very disturbed, because I felt like I was going to lose this amazing feeling of light and love that I had not experienced in the earthly plane. And so for me, I was very distraught by this. I experienced the earthly plane as um, a place of fear and a place of constriction. And it was almost like going back to that first experience of that space of darkness that I moved through. It was almost like I had been told, this is where, you have to go back to this place. And that's what I interpreted it as. And that's what I felt was happening. And so I did, because I'm here. And so I did. I returned. And as I was coming into my body, I felt deeply um, abandoned. I felt deeply betrayed. I felt deeply disturbed by having to come back and be in this plane because I didn't want to lose that love. I didn't want to lose that feeling and that light. And when I was coming back in, I could see myself coming kind of back into my body, and I could feel this dense veil of darkness, of constriction, and of fear on the planet, like almost like a dark cloud. And um, and all I could say is I didn't want to come back. All of a sudden, I opened my eyes and I could feel in the car something kind of lifting from me. And I could hear the policeman saying something. I really couldn't make out what it was. I think he was trying to call my name, get me to respond. And as this weight lifted from above me, I remember running out of the car, and I remember it because I could feel the wet, and I could feel the wet grass under my feet. And I ran to my mom, and I remember my mom was bleeding, and I remember being in the ambulance, being strapped down, and it was all very surreal, and I could see all the lights, and it was moving quickly. And I remember this vividly also because she was wearing white pants. And I remember being concerned about her cut. She had a cut here and she was bleeding. And that was my main concern at that moment, that her pants were getting full of blood, and the blood was staining her white pants. And so then I really don't remember much of the hospital. I remember after a few hours looking over the counter and being there with my uncle that had come to pick us up, and everybody was discharged. And so from this experience, I did not actually speak about it at all. I actually didn't speak for 2 weeks after. And I thought it was so surreal, and I didn't really have a way to, a context to hold it in. And so I didn't speak about it, and I didn't speak at all. And I believe I was in shock for a few weeks. And so no one really spoke about it, and it was forgotten. It was never really spoken about during my adult life. And so at the age of 42, about 11 years ago, I started to receive the memories of the near-death experience. And I had started to experience not just the memories mentally, but also viscerally through my body. And my body started to break down in many ways: my nervous system, my endocrine system, my immune system. And I would have these episodes where I actually felt like I was dying, like I was passing out. My heartbeat was irregular. Um, I ended up on medication for that to stabilize my heart. I My body crashed a few times physically, and as these memories were all surfacing, it was almost like my body was re-experiencing the trauma over and over. The panic attacks were very visceral. They weren't something that I was worried about and that I was thinking about, and therefore I got scared. It was really just the memories moving through my physical body and my body shutting down in many ways, like it had when I was in the accident. And so I moved through this. It took a while to move through these experiences in my body, the panic attacks, the heart irregularities, and in many ways, I was really processing a lot of the fear and the terror. And I was also I had met my guide, one of the most profound experiences of my life, which was with one of my spiritual guides. And it was almost as if the meeting with him brought up this trauma to be healed. And yet there was really no distinction between what was reality here, where I was safe, versus the reality that my body was experiencing, which was still back in the trauma of that 6-year-old. And so, in many ways, I had this experience of union with the divine and the light and the love. And it was all twisted with this experience of death and dying and fear and terror. And so it was really a process of unwinding this light and love from the fear and terror, where my mind would get to a place where I could actually know that I could experience the love and the light and the divine without necessarily having to experience trauma and fear and terror. In this experience, one of the things that I remember the most and always held very close to my heart was the question, the inquiry of why would God send me back to the earth into a place where I felt was fearful and scary and constricted and full of pain and suffering. And the truth is that this experience allowed me to really realize that through processing all of this fear and terror and through really moving through this trauma, what I realized was that the love and the light that I had experienced as a split within me, a split that light and love was only in what we would call the heavens, and that here was only pain and suffering, was really an illusion. That the light and love is really within me. And we carry this light and love within ourselves. And so sending me back was really the answer to my heart's longing that I had always wanted to move through the fear and the anxiety and the chaos that I saw in everyone around me. As a child, I didn't believe that this world, that we would come in here and become incarnated to just be in suffering and be in pain. And so it was very important for me to really understand this truth. And so sending me back was really about giving me that truth and that understanding so that I could work through it and work through and break through that illusion that had become a reality for me and for many of us, that we feel that the light and the love and this presence we know as God is outside of ourselves instead of really inside where it resides. As I work through the experience of the trauma, and even though there weren't a lot of people that really understood me, it forced me to really search deep within myself. And it also allowed me to come up with the program that I actually have put together in the last 33 years that I've been searching and looking for answers. And so, in many ways, this experience that seemed to be a trauma allowed me to discover that the love, because I had the trauma and the experience, the first thing was for me to experience the love and the light of the divine. And then because I came back, I was able to experience the truth of discovering that light within myself, that it's not something we experience after we have passed away and died to this life. This is something that's present within ourselves right now. This was the experience that allowed me to fulfill a longing in my heart, which was one, to understand why we're here and understand that we're not here to experience fear and chaos, which is what I saw in the people around me, and I couldn't really understand why no one was feeling the love, no one was feeling the light. Everybody was in fear, and I didn't really believe that our lives, that our life purpose was to be here in pain and suffering and fear. And so it allowed me to discover the truth of the love that's within us. And it also allowed me to feel the goodness and that light within me, and realize that because I felt different growing up, because I felt when I was a child that I could only experience this love and that I wasn't seeing it in others around me. And what I did is I made myself wrong. I said, well, it can't be me. It can't be them that's wrong, because there's so many people that are just in fear and anxiety and chaos. So that must just be the way it is. And therefore I'm wrong. So all of my experiences of sensitivity and of joy and of wanting to feel good and enjoy life, and all of these experiences of the inner realms, also including the near-death experience, I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of judgment from myself, and I felt in many ways that I was the one that was wrong. because I didn't see that modeled around me. I didn't see women that were intuitive and followed their knowing and um, felt safe and grounded in their bodies. I didn't really see that. And so, in many ways, what I realized is that this experience allowed me to really value these gifts of light and love and intuition and what many of us call these feminine traits that have been so repressed. And what I realize is that my uniqueness, what I was bringing through, wasn't modeled, wasn't the other 95% of the world that we live in. And yet, these traits and my own uniqueness is exactly what was needed to change what our experience is, because we don't want to live in anxiety and fear and chaos. We don't want to live how most of us are living. So I realized that my unique qualities and everybody's unique qualities is not so that we can make ourselves wrong. It's so that we can bring those out into the consciousness and into the world, and then allow that light to come in and make the planet, the world that we want to live in, and to be that change that we want to see on the planet. And so there was many truths that I discovered, and I still am discovering from that experience in my life. And one thing that I've been able to do is to really put together a program that allows women to really connect with their unique healing gifts and really allow themselves to walk through their fears and walk through the illusions that of their conditioning patterns, and sometimes even of trauma that they might be still experiencing in their body. And it allowed me to put together, from my own experience and from my own training and all of my learning, really, in physically and with Chinese medicine and the Vedic system and the Taoist system and Sufism, putting together a spiritual program that is for women. It's about creating consciousness around the feminine and really starting to value our light and stepping into our light and allowing our own souls to emerge through right now and become present with all that we have to bring. And so, in many ways, my near-death experience has been a blessing in more ways that I could probably even say here today. So if any of this resonates with any of you out there, I would love to work with you guys. Maybe take up one of our feminine breakthrough sessions that I'm offering this month. And those are completely free. And we can connect and we can see where the gap is in helping you step into your truths, and whether you decide to work with me or not, or whether you're interested in the healership program, or in the Conscious Feminine Matrix program that we're putting together for this summer. Whether you are or not, I invite you to take me up on the free feminine breakthroughs. So thank you and many blessings. Thank you.